Morning and happy Mother's Day. Without you, we would not here. Beyond our culture today, without the mothers, we would not be here. I have not seen a man give birth to a kid or to a baby yet. Matter of fact, it is said that our culture has slowed down in giving childbirth altogether. So some of them are worried that because it's slowed down, it's not going to stop, folks. Let me tell you that right now. It's not going to stop. So the slowing down is because of the ideology and the bad theology that many have today in our culture of same-sex marriages and men can become pregnant. I haven't seen one do it yet, but that is part of our culture today, and it's all demonic, and that's what Satan wants. He wants to destroy the family, and so there'll always be people producing children as it should be, as God had planned it from the beginning. We're in the book of Proverbs, if I'm correctly, on Sunday morning. and so we're in chapter 6. Now, chapter 6 is speaking to us in a lot of ways today. Let me say that. It talks about co-signing or lending money to individuals that maybe we don't have ourselves, but we put our name on a line to help somebody out. And then when they fail to help themselves out, they fall back on us to pay for it. And so again, it is showing a bad situation for us to get into, but also not only a stranger, but our family as well, and even to the point of our grandchildren. As a grandson of a well-to-do individual at his time, he never signed a contract with anybody. He always had a handshake and a word on their promises that they would pay that or do it. And by their character at that time, in his lifetime, is a lot different than what we have today. All right? When you stand on somebody's name or somebody's character, you expect them to fulfill what they had promised. Well, it's a lot different today. And so what Solomon is trying to get his children to understand is that you can go broke into poverty two different ways. One, signing a note for somebody else, or being lazy. And we see that today. People 26, 27, 28, 30 years old still living in the basement of their mom and dad's and living off of them. Now, mom and dad is not going to kick them out because they're children, they got a bond there. But you can put your family into a situation that brings poverty or hardships to them when you're too lazy to get up out of bed and go to work. Did I say that plainly? Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to look at today here. And Solomon says, again, there's two ways to go into poverty. My sons, if you become surety of your friend, if you have shaken hands in a pledge for a stranger, you are snared by the words of your mouth. You are taken by the words of your mouth. So what's he saying here? It's a warning. If you're going to lend money to somebody that has to come to you and can't get it from the bank, you probably want to kind of humble yourselves and back out of that situation. Because if their credit is not that good, and they come to you as a friend or a relative and said, if you can help me out this time, it would really be a big blessing to me. And so we got to figure out what is going on here. How come they may have a job, but yet they can't provide for themselves? And so we love to help people. Matter of fact, sometimes my kid says, Dad, you're helping too many people. You don't need to. And you find yourself in a jam. Financially, physically, in a jam. And so Solomon says here, watch your mouth and what you're promising somebody else. Because it may come back and bite you. We hate to see our loved ones unhappy. We hate to see them struggling. We hate to see them suffering because of some hardship. But it comes down to a point what are you going to do when you sign a note for them and they maybe make a payment or two but don't make any more payments? And the bank comes to you after 3 payments have been missed and saying, we need to talk. You owe us. What do you mean I owe you? So-and-so, but no, your name's on the loan. And so they come to you and you're saying, first of all, why didn't you come to me the first time you missed a payment instead of 3 months back now? But you put yourself in that situation because you wanted to help somebody. And Solomon says, you should have been able to talk this situation out and brought it to a point that you don't have to struggle, and now you're in a bad shape yourselves. Now, helping a fellow Israelite, not as money-making institution, they didn't charge interest. They were not allowed to charge interest to a brother as an Israelite. Even a foreigner, they were not to charge a high amount of interest. They were only charging a small amount of interest. But when we do this today, because everything is done by a contract anymore, we're putting our line on not only the amount that has been loaned, but also the interest. And sometimes because of the interest is justified by your credit rating. And as they're looking at this one person that you're getting ready to co-sign, their credit rating is also going to be applied to that loan as well, even though you signed for it. And your credit rating may be good. That's why he got the loan, basically, okay? Or he wouldn't have got the loan to be first. So the Israelites understood that this was not something that they get into lightly. If they did loan it to another Israelite, again, he was not allowed to charge them any interest. And you have to also remember the year of Jubilee, all loans were forgiven. So, you have to look at from the standpoint of where they're at, and the standpoint of where we're at when we get ready to sign for somebody else or to help them out in that situation. So do this, my son, and deliver yourself. For you have come into a hand of your friend. Go and humble yourself. Plead with your friend. You notice he says friend several times here. Because what's going to happen is if we're able to sit down and explain ourselves to our friend, they may not say, because you are my friend, I'm not going to put you in that situation. Because I don't want our friendship to be spoiled if something happens. And if a true friend is like that, then he will relieve you from that obligation of signing a note or something like that. Give no sleep for your eyes, no slumber for your eyelids. Deliver yourself as a gizor from the hand of the hunter, and like a bird from the hand of the fowl. Now Solomon here is using some lessons here. A gazor is a very quick animal to jump, to get away from that which is entrapping. And so he says, deliver yourself as one. Don't get in this trap. Run from it. Be quick to run from it. And don't let this here put you in a trap that they're getting ready to set you up for. Now, like I said before, we have loved ones that we care a lot for, even our grandchildren. As my grandkids come to me and say, Grandpa, I'd like to have this. You would. Fine. And you have to sometimes say no. And you see the eyes get sad. Maybe they get mad at you for a while. But my grandfather was like this. I asked my grandfather for a loan. And he loved me. And he had the money. But he says, I will not lend money to my grandkids. Because I've seen what happens when something happens when they loan money and you can't pay it back. The friendship breaks. The fellowship breaks. And so he said, your dad is who's responsible for you. So I took that, and I still love my grandpa. He's long gone now, but I still love my grandpa through all of my life until he left. Jake got mad at me the other day. He says, you're not my dad. I said, fine. Remember this, when you come to ask me for money, go ask your dad because I'm not giving it to you anymore. And so it hit a hard spot on him. He came to me 2 days later, knowing what I had said because it stuck with him. Grandpa, can you buy me some Sprite? And you seen you saw his character change because he remembered what I said. And he said, I would really appreciate it, but if you can't, I understand. So I didn't buy it that day. I let him sweat for a while. I said, you remember what you told me? I'm not your dad. So I let him sweat for a day or two. And then I went and bought the soda for him. But he caught on very quickly that it caused a hurt in the long run. And so jump quickly away from this situation, even within your own family. Because they could bankrupt you. And let me tell you, they can bankrupt you very quickly. Or make it very hard on you. You know, as my granddaughter and grandson have no idea of money, they think it grows on a tree somewhere. So my grandson again, he says, Grandpa, I'd love to have a four-wheeler. I said, fine.
Big difference between a Sprite and a four-wheeler.
Yeah, big difference. And he says, Grandpa, if I could make $100 a month, I can make the payments on one. I said, oh, really? You can make a payments on one. I said, first of all, when they offer you that money and give you a quote of what it's going to cost you a month, they're asking for a big down payment. So have you got the down payment for that four-wheeler yet? A down payment? I said, yeah. They're not going to just give you that four-wheeler without a down payment and have $100 a month payment. And I said, and then you got to figure you got to have insurance. You got to put gas in that thing, oil and stuff like that, maintenance. I said, have you got more than $100 a month to do that? Well, I don't have $100 yet. I said, well, then I suggest you get a job first. And you start saving up for a down payment. And you start wondering, after I got the down payment and the $100 a month, how can I take care of the gas and the oil and all this stuff? Because Grandpa's not going to do it. So he's thinking now, that means I got to work. Yeah, how about that? so we got to control our own finances, and we got to teach them about finances and how things work in the real world. So when we are talking to our young people that some have forgotten, we need to also include work ethic. And so, as I have told him, Jake, you're able to do some things. As a matter of fact, I did it. I bought him a couple welders and some different things, and he's pretty good at welding. But again, the work ethic's not there. I said, you've got to put some time in each day, not just whenever you decide to, but every day you've got to go out in that garage and start working, doing something, building something, making something. But the work ethic's not there. So because the work ethic's not there, I'm not putting out anything for him until he decides, I want something and I can't afford it, so I must go to work. Now then, that brings us up to the other situation that Solomon here is talking about, and that's the laziness of it. If we don't take care of our own finances, I said before, and we're signing for somebody else, it's going to catch you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to bite you. Sometimes it takes a longer time to get out of that situation than it did to get into it. So as we come to verses 6 and following, it's another warning of being lazy. Go to the ant, you sluggard, and consider her ways and be wise. Watch, having no captain, no overseer, no ruler, provides her supplies in the summer and gathers her food for the winter. Now then, the Bible says if we don't work, we don't eat. Pretty good rule. I like to eat. I also, I don't like to miss too many meals, but, sometimes I have because of my own ignorance. Now then, when we see individuals, as I said before, in the 20s, 30s, and not working on a regular job, putting in 8 hours a day or so, many times you have to put in more than that. But they seem to be entitled to handouts. And mom and dad, of course, they're going to a point, They're going to try to do what they can, but they're also going to look back and say, well, wait a minute. How many jobs did you go for an interview this week? We can't put out our Social Security and our retirement refunds to keep you up, to set you around here sleeping all day long, and we have sacrificed so much that we have to go back to work. And that's the thing that we're seeing today. Now, somebody said, well, send them to the government. Let the government take care of them. Well, guess what? The government don't have any money either. It's the taxpayers who pay the taxes to the government to be able to hand it back out to you. And we're tired of it. When you can sit at home and have a huge TV and your pom-poms, whatever you're eating it, watching the TV that you bought off of my income, is not right. It's slavery. And our government's looking at this thing. How much of our tax money has been wasted? And again, when God was leading the Israelites, God provided everything for them. But he also expected them to do some things. It's not like, I need a hole dug out here, so I'll go out there with a shovel and I'll watch that hole. Well, just watching it is not going to dig that hole. All right? We got to put our feet and hands to work before God will bless it. It's just like anything else. We can't just say, well, God, I want this and I want that, and expect God just to deliver it to us like a Santa Claus or some type deal. Not going to happen. He expects us to put forth our effort. When he kicked Adam and Eve out, he said, what you could do in here, you're going to do out there in the sweat and the briars and the thickets. And that's the way they lived. They had to work. They had to go hunting. They had to do something for food and stuff. They had to plant the crops. And I don't know where the idea is that you can go to the store and just buy the food and forget where it came from. Actually, we've had a representative say, well, just go to the store and buy it. Do you have an idea where that cow came from? It came from a farmer somewhere along the line. And all the foods you eat came from the crops that the farmers put out for you. It just didn't show up in the store, packaged up for you. That shows the ignorance of a lot of our culture today. Just go to the store and buy it. Somebody had to raise it. Somebody had to kill it. Somebody had to butcher it. All this stuff is not coming in free. We have entitlements today. And I enjoy seeing what my money is able to do with. I enjoy having things and I take care of them because I spent the money that I worked hard for to get it. Now again, let's go back to my grandkids. All right? Christmas presents. I want this, I want that, and I want this. I got news for you. All that's not going to happen. We can get a couple, but that's not going to happen. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen after Christmas. What you got, you're not going to take care of. It didn't mean nothing to you because you didn't earn it. When you earn something, you take care of things. It's just like today, we buy a toaster and it doesn't work, we throw it away and buy another toaster. Why don't we fix it? Well, don't know how. Really? So we have to understand that we've got a throwaway society today that really doesn't care because they don't really earn it themselves. You can see from the old timers, they never got rid of much of anything. They worked it, fixed it, and used it because they knew how hard it was to earn it. They took care of it. Now, again, you can probably look at your own family and see individuals within your own families of how they maintain things and how they don't maintain things, and who paid for things and who did not pay for things. So he brings forth the ants. Now, if you haven't just watched ants, they scurry here and there, doing what they need to do, building their ground, their community. But they really have no individual who's making them do that. The queen ant is to produce more ants to do the work. But every ant is its own independent worker. And you see them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, as if it was an emergency. But they have no ruler. They have no boss over them, per se. But they're constantly busy. You go out and you mess up their anthill, that doesn't stop them. They go back and rebuild it. Nobody has to tell them to. They just do it. And you see them carrying food into that little hole. It's not long you see some more coming back out with no food because they're going back after some more food to bring back so that the winter comes or whatever storm comes. And if some of you have those ant farms, very interesting to watch. But today in our own society, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your needs like an armed man. What's he saying to us? Be busy. Solomon urged the scoffer here to get out of bed and start to work, because he knows what's going to happen. And we see it today in our society. Why is the government pouring out so much welfare to people sitting at home doing nothing? Now remember that at one time during the Depression and stuff, they had work camps and stuff. You went and you worked there. And you got paid by the government, but you had to do work. Not today. We pay everybody just to sit at home. And because of that, we're seeing the society in which we live within. And Solomon's saying, look, folks, if you don't want to go broke, then pay attention to what's going on. Don't squander what God has given you, first of all, by signing a note for somebody else. And don't squander of not working. You want something? Work for it. That's a hard thing to understand. The wife and I worked hard for most of our lives to provide for our children. But you can also see at times where we spoiled them to the point that now it doesn't make any difference. It's a sad situation, folks. if you want your children to work and provide, give them the work ethics that you grew up in. Show them what you are able to do because of what you were able to accomplish through your work ethics. Not just hand them money and say, go get it, go get it, go get it. Because eventually, and it does happen, sadly to say, that the parents will sit there alone with maybe just soup or cat food, and the family's gone, no longer to be there. Now you're in poverty, and they don't even want to be around you anymore because you're not handing out anymore. Teach them to work. Teach them the work ethics. Teach them to build something of their own, to be proud of something that they were able to build. Solomon says, look, this is not something that we can live by, that we're looking at today. He says, this is what we need to do in order to live in a society, in a country that prospers. They work. They're not lazy. They work. Like I said, you look at an ant. You watch them. There's no lazy ants. Now maybe we ought to start calling our entitlement lazy people as they are. And our government changes the situation. That we workers, the workers that put in a lifetime of work, is not being brought to poverty because of the taxation that it takes to keep these lazy individuals up. I got off the warpath now. All right. Any thoughts, any questions about what we're doing here today, what Solomon had to say? I think if we all look back to some degree, we all would understand, our generation anyway would understand, that this country was built on hard work. It didn't get built watching people work. It got built by people actually working. And what we're seeing today is generation after generation saying, I'm not going to work. And in turn, your country starts going downhill instead of uphill. When we tell people to go to see the government, we're telling them to go see us, the taxpayer. The government does not earn money. It's the workers that put in 8 hours or more a week that pay the taxes so that the government can give it away. Now again, as I said before, and I'll get on into the soap opera here, I don't know how much longer we can keep going. As a nation, as individuals. I mean, we can see the state of Illinois as taxation without representation, and the people are leaving. Big companies are leaving. Caterpillar, the coffee shop, is leaving places. What's it? The high pressed coffee people.
Starbucks.
Huh?
Starbucks.
Yeah, Starbucks. Leaving. Salt company leaving Illinois. Big one. Been here since 1700 and something. Leaving. They can't afford it. And if they leave, that taxation that they were paying is no longer here. So who's going to pay for it? More taxes come up on the poor. And we can't pay it. I'm almost to the point, I hate to say it, but I'm almost to the point of saying, let's have another Tea Party. Let's boycott paying the taxes. And that's pretty hard. It may be some jail time too. But it's getting ridiculous when we worked all of our life to be able to put into Social Security and can't survive at the end of our lifetime. It wasn't meant that way. It wasn't meant that way. Now, many of our ages have gone back to work because they can't live. Too many taxes. Now, I know what everybody says. Well, you give Caesar what's Caesar's. Well, there comes a point that Caesar has to understand that when there's nobody to put in, Caesar's not going to be there either. And God told them exactly what was going to happen when they went after their own king. We see nations after nations collapse because of what we're seeing today in our own society. And old Muslims up in New York has found out that his system doesn't work very well. And now he's losing and trying to stop people from leaving. Now, I don't know how you can stop people from leaving. But you see the ignorance of what we've developed and what they want. It doesn't work. It does not work. Socialism does not work. Communism does not work. And that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. Work ethics has to be built into our young children at an early age. Somebody talks about our allowances when we were growing up. My allowance was to be able to sit at the table and eat. That was my allowance. You went out and you mowed the yard, you did this, and you didn't get paid for it. It was just a responsibility. You sure didn't ask for money for it. You want to live here? You want to eat? You want clothing? You help. And so we developed a work ethics. Now, I had a job at 13. I had to get a worker's permit. Could only work so many hours a week. And never been without a job in my whole life. Never asked for handouts. Never asked for the government to help me. It hasn't been easy, folks. It hasn't been easy. But thank God he worked with me and blessed me so many different times that I've always been able to have a job from the time I left one to the time I started another. Started out 13. Now we can't even get the 13s to do chores at home for nothing. We got to pay them. We developed a wrong system. And Solomon knew that system wasn't going to work. As I said before, parents say, well, I didn't have a book to how to raise our children. Yes, we do right here. We have a book that tells us what we need to do as an adult, is that we have to work or we don't eat. The way we live our life is based upon the way God wanted us to live, to be happy, to be abundantly clear. But we've forgotten it. All right? Any thoughts? We're going to get ready for our worship service. And again, happy Mother's Day. Y'all, and, enjoy the time today. And family, if your mom's still alive, give her a call. Maybe it's been a while since you talked to her. All right? We're going to get ready for our worship service.